Hey, 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 hey. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Sorry, I gotta. Where in the world OBS go? There we go. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Friday. Oh, I'm glowing. I guess I should get rid of the sun. There we go. How's everyone doing today?
Hey, everybody.
Right. Isaias, how you doing, man? It's been a while.
Yeah. Hi.
Actually, I saw Jesus here. I don't think I've seen Jesus around in a while. Good to see you,
Yeah,
man.
I haven't seen him. Right.
Hubert. Welcome, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
So, yeah, what we got going on? I don't know. I just don't know where the time goes. Time goes by way too fast.
Yeah, that's right.
So, hope everyone's doing well. Has anyone got anything to work on right now? Oh, I see people chatting in here.
Hello, Jacob.
Who'd you say hello to? Oh, Jekko.
Yeah. That's on the YouTube chat, I think, right? Cool.
So anyway, has anyone got anything they're working on? Need help
Any
with?
questions? Yeah.
I know we had one you were talking about, Isaiah, so it's from the hero group, but we could bring it up here just because it's a little more broad than. Oh, there's Tom. Oh, I need to disable the what do you call it? Waiting room.
The gatekeeper. That's what we call it.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Tom. How you doing?
You totally look like you're in a Halloween version of The Walking Dead.
So much sunlight here today. Looks like it might rain.
Right, it's true.
I just got the lamp up here. My LEDs.
No, but I gotta tell you, like the walls, as they are wooden walls, I usually think about that you're kind of like in a boat or something. Looks like that, like you're in a cabin or something.
They're vultures.
Yeah,
behind.
That's awesome.
So, how are we doing? Everyone
Everybody
doing well?
good, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I think we might want to start off.
Tom, do you have anyone on your channel asking questions, or anyone that you want to answer a question?
Yeah, any questions?
Nothing really going on now.
Okay.
I haven't done much this week. It's fall. It's getting cold here. So I spent pretty much the whole week just cleaning my garden, picking all the last vegetables, canning them. So I need to release another video because it's been like a week. I just haven't had time to make one.
That happens.
It's weird when I don't make 2 a week.
So I am actually checking on some of the comments. I saw that Jekko was saying that if he can write his questions, yes, sure. That's actually the point of this. You can join the live stream, just ask your questions, and we're gonna try to.
Or you can join Zoom if you'd rather.
Right, we have this meeting. You can join, and we can definitely try to help you as much as we can. For Rodrigo, as Joe said, he maybe had replied something else earlier, but let me just in general say, there are libraries for that. So AutoHotkey cannot connect to a database directly, but there are two ways of doing it. You can use a library for that. If you go to the forums and look for MySQL connection or MySQL query in the AutoHotkey forums, there will be some libraries that you can use. And if you don't want to use like additional files, you can use a COM object to connect, but those are, a little bit more advanced. There's this object called the ADODB. Is that how it's called, Joe? The ADODB object, right? So that's a way of you connecting and then just creating the queries. But those are anything that has to do with databases, connecting from AutoHotkey to a database is a little bit of an advanced topic. So, but most of the things that you want to do in a database can be done in an ini file. So AutoHotkey has support for ini files built in.
He mentioned in his other comment that he was trying to connect to a database. I don't think he's trying to just save user data. I think he's
right. So he's trying to get data from a database. Okay. Yeah.
That's where you have your query string that you have to look up, and then you need certain framework installed depending on the database, and that's what we cover in that other video, which was ridiculously complex.
Yeah, it is a little bit simple,
but it's and that's why we documented it for ourselves, because it was like
yeah, not to forget, because next time I'm going to forget about that too. But in general, and this happens specifically because if you're trying to use the MySQL database, you need a special type of connection. But if you want to connect to SQLite database, it's a little bit simpler, but it is again, it is an advanced topic that might require you to actually investigate a little bit more.
And again, it depends on your computer what actually you've already have installed by default, because some computers will have certain things installed, or especially at work, you might already have a driver that you need already available, and other ones you have to add them. And the other really tricky thing is, of course, everything the stuff you're actually using is privileged stuff. So making a video on a topic that to share with everybody, that would mean you have to go back and change your database address and and a lot of other stuff. The other thing, by the way, that we had to do, because the Automator is built on a WordPress database, right? WordPress uses a MySQL. I'm sorry, Automator is built on WordPress. WordPress uses MySQL as its database. We figured out how to connect to our MySQL database, and it was phenomenal. But during that process also, we had to log into our hosting provider and go to the admin stuff and create users, create a password, and add an IP address that we can connect from, or whitelist all, whatever. And it's complex.
Yeah, so I think just to summarize and leave the question there is, connecting to databases is a little bit of an advanced topic. It requires you to kind of get some time and understand what you're doing. If you can avoid it, if there's ways of avoiding it, I would recommend going to something simpler. If there is no way to avoid it, then you would have to research a little bit.
But I would also add, once you do connect, it's phenomenal, right? Like it beats APIs even. I mean, I'm sure it actually is an
yes, API. That's right.
Programmatically interacting with the database. So it's phenomenal. It's so fast. It's crazy. And you can use SQL, which is so flexible, a little too flexible at times, but and complex. But yeah. And then, so did you see Jekko's question, Isaias?
Not really. Let me see. So he has compiled an executable for other people, and he wants the script to encounter that if the script encounters a runtime error, it just exits with a generic message like something went wrong. Yeah, that is it is a very good question. It is very simple. There is a simple way of doing that, and it is the on error method that AutoHotkey has. It depends on whether you're using version 1 or version 2, but in version 1, it is, I think, a command on error. Let me just share. Oh, well, it is a function as well in here. So let me share my screen real quick and give you an overview of what you might be doing. So this particular method or function takes as a parameter another function. So it needs the name of another function. The second parameter is just simply optional. Is it true or false? And basically, you create your function. In this case, it would be, as an example, log error. It takes one parameter always, so you have to put that there. It cannot. You can name that whatever you want, but you have to put that as one of the parameters. Down here, you're going to put whatever you want to happen. In this case, in your case, you want to show a message box and then exit the application, right? So that's the only thing you have to do. But at the beginning of your script or in your auto execute section, you would use on error and you will pass the name of the function as the parameter. So that means that as soon as you get an error, this function is going to be called and the actions that you want are going to be executed. If you return certain values, the script can be able to continue. But if you just use exit app in here instead, then it would just exit the application as soon as you do whatever you want. Most of the times you might want to also file append the error into a file or whatever, so that you keep track of what type of errors you're getting. Because if you just exit the application whenever your script finds an error, you might not be able to fix the issue later on. So I would recommend just logging the error, checking what it was that caused the error, so that later on, go ahead and fix the problem so that it doesn't happen all the time, right?
And Rodrigo was saying, okay, so make sure, Rodrigo, that when we had a project with Matrius we're still working on it, and we initially came up with something to use a SQL database. We were using SQLite, and what we realized was when you have multiple users hitting it at the same time, SQLite doesn't have a built-in queue and all this stuff. So make sure, I would assume you're going to use MySQL instead of SQLite.
Yes. I think for user validation, you could use any type of database that you want. It could be an ini file, it could be a SQLite, it could be a MySQL, whatever you want. But that makes it complex for your script, because now your script needs to be listening to people connecting and getting the data and returning data to them. So now you're talking about a program that is a little bit more complex to, so you are, seems to be working with something that is a little bit more complex than just, hey, let me check if this person is here. If you're allowing people to connect to something and you have to check for that information, now your program must be able to handle several users at the same time, because as soon as you have two users trying to connect at the same time, you might have a little bit of a situation there, because AutoHotkey is one-threaded, so it's just one thread, so it can do one thing at a time. So that means that you will have to have a queue. That means if I join, I put you in a queue. If another person joins, I will finish with him. After I finish with him, then I will take your order in this particular case. So yeah, I think, yeah.
So when Matrius worked on that project I mentioned, it's actually twofold. We have a program that runs on people's computers, and then we have people using apps. And for the credentials for the people using apps, we're using Firebase from Google. And you get a lot of free storage and free transactions with that, and it's able to store it. And I think if I remember right, everything is stored like in a JSON format. It's not a normal database, so it makes it a little interesting. But it's pretty really fast and cool.
Yep. Hello, Metabolic. So
I had something come up, just a quick answer to it. For some reason, it's on Discord.
Yeah, go ahead. And
he wants to know, basically, I'm not sure 100% what he's asking, but he says, how to you run window mode? I'm getting an error message, does not contain recognized action. So window mode's not really a command, it's a style. So you just go to your game settings, or you can, a lot of the games just drag the thing, like the bar at the top, and it'll go into window mode. If you're trying to get AutoHotkeys to automatically set it to window mode, I would just look at win set style, I think, or styles.
You can try to use win restore or win maximize. Because
yeah,
those would set the style that you're referring to. Yes.
So that's all he was asking, just what the command is, because I think he thought window mode was the command. It's win set or
yeah. Actually, let me see if somebody has any other questions, because Joe, we were talking about this toggle suspending script, right? So that was something that I think many people might find useful, and I will take a little time to talk about it, but there's a little caveat to that. So before I go ahead and talk about that, maybe if there are any other questions around, you can go ahead and ask them, and I will.
Yeah, I think that would be a great one to talk about. I did a video about how to suspend a program, where there are certain video games that I play that they're not multiplayer, they're single player. but there's no pause option. They just never added it for some odd reason. So you have to, if you want to walk away, you got to exit out of the game or your file every single time. So I got so annoyed. So this is something great for gamers, especially.
Yeah.
But one thing to throw out there is it won't work server based. I mean, it will suspend the program, but it's going to probably cause issues because you're trying to live communicate and the server's going to think you just disconnect it.
Yeah.
You're still probably going to get kicked.
By the way, regarding the other question that the other user had, which was about setting the style to window mode, you can always try Alt-Enter on your keyboard on many games. That actually toggles between full screen mode and window mode. Those are two different windows, two different settings, and a lot of programs have that as a default hotkey that you can use to toggle between full screen and windowed mode. So just try that. That might help you, and maybe you don't even need a script to do that for you when you can just toggle Alt-Enter, which is a standard hotkey.
There's so many hotkeys built into Windows. Even I forget sometimes, and I write a script, and I'm like, wait, this already exists? Dang, I just wasted time.
Ooh, this is an interesting question by Jekko. And he has a script that closes all the other scripts, but the thing is that the way how he's closing it is a little bit too aggressive, is what I would call it. So just for the sake of it, just to confirm, are you using like the win kill or some of those commands? What is the command that you're using to exit the script, by the way? Because there are several ways for you to close a script, and some of them, they're a little bit different depending on what you want to do. So let's see if he answers on that one. In the meantime, let me just go ahead and explain something general about closing programs. Programs, you have two ways of closing programs. One of them is sending them a shutdown signal, okay? And the other one is ending the process. Now, when you send a shutdown signal, the process receives that signal and says, oh, I have to shut down, goes through all the things that it needs to do before closing, and then goes away, right? Which allows it to close the tray icon. Now, ending the process is different because you're not sending a signal to it, you're just terminating that process immediately, which doesn't give it time to go ahead and remove the tray icon, which is what is happening to you.
Did you see that he wrote in there, process kill, exit app?
Right. So that's the point. So what the process kill is actually a way of going ahead and removing a program without sending in it any notification about what is going on. And that's the reason why they stay there. But here's a few things. You have the win kill command, which does what I'm saying, just ends the process and doesn't allow it to know what happened. It just went away. If you do this, most of the times you're going to have some lingering things going around. You have the win close to close a window, and that sends the signal to it, but doesn't just terminate it. It sends the signal, and the program does its exits routine. And when you're using the process command, you have the close. So this is one of the ways that you can actually do that. I'm not sure. Here in version 1, I'm not seeing the kill command. I'm seeing the process close only. Can you confirm if you're using process close, or because you said
Code in there. Do you see it?
hold on, let me see. Hold on. He just sent. Let me see. Process kill. Okay, hold on. Oh, again, you're querying the. So you're doing a process close. That is interesting. So you're getting the list of the currently running processes and just closing it with this. Now, if I remember, let me see something. Here, the documentation actually states that since the process will be abruptly terminated, then it would be a close. It would be resulting in the close of the loss of unsafe data, and also this thing with a task icon might happen. So right there in the documentation, they tell you this process should be used only if a process cannot be closed with the win close command. Again, the win close command is a little bit softer. It's not that aggressive. It actually sends a signal and waits for the program to terminate. So you might want to use win close first using the window title. Well, not the title itself. You have several ways of targeting a program, and you can use the AHK-EXE and put, like, for example, win close. So I would say win close AHK-EXE chrome.exe, and that would close the Chrome program, right? And then you can actually have a check in here. So if process exists, right? So if the process exists still, then go ahead and use the process close that you were using, because they behave differently. This win close is a little bit better in notifying the program about what is about to happen. And I think that's what is going on in this particular instance. We just use that first and then give it a try.
Yeah, and you can just write it where if it doesn't work to use, the other approach.
Right, exactly.
Because someone was saying that. And also just I wrote it in the comments there that my Explorer, I need to reinstall Windows at some point. It's been years and years since I've done it. And so my Explorer, because it runs your taskbar and stuff, it will hang where, like you said, like the icons don't update, but other things too. So I just wrote a hotkey that just kills it and restarts it. And I'm like, right. It's stupid, but I'm like, you know what? Just happen. It's handy to have when you need to do it.
That is correct. That is correct. Now, I saw a question there by Gabriel. It is a little bit, so his question is if there's any ideas on how to pull information from a Bluetooth device and connect to it. So that is actually a very advanced topic, because AutoHotkey by itself, the way how the tool was built is about doing automation stuff and hotkeys and hot strings. Now, you do have access to the functions that do this, which are Windows API functions. So you can access the Windows API functions within AutoHotkey fairly easily, but then you would have to follow the documentation from Microsoft, which usually that's the hardest part, trying to understand how those functions work. The other problem with that is that this MSDN library, if you go to MSDN to see that, they are based on C++ code most of the time, which means that when you're trying to use AutoHotkey to connect to those things, you would have to do DLL calls to do that. Now, regarding libraries about that, I do not remember specifically about that. There are some libraries that connect to devices, like USB devices, tells you whether they are connected, plugged or not. If it is a USB drive, it tells you the contents and stuff like that. But I'm not really sure about specifically Bluetooth devices. I wouldn't be able to answer that one.
And then, I forget his name, was asking about Rufadium, and he was basically saying he runs it, and it like, for instance, it would launch a page like on YouTube, but it doesn't actually play triage
the content.
Yeah, start playing the video. I mean, I would just, if that, maybe that's not, you're just simplifying it, but I'm like, I just run the URL, right? Like,
right. You can, if you can use the run command on a YouTube URL, and it should start playing automatically. It's not, I think, unless you want to do some additional automation on that, then a run command is more than enough to what you're looking for. And let me just share these for people who might want to try that. You can just use the run command and give it a URL just like that. And that would automatically, if you run this script, it would open a new page with whatever video that is, and it will start playing it for you. So if your goal is just to open the page and start watching the video, a run command might be just enough. Now, if you want to do some more automation, like liking the video or something like that, that's different.
Jacko, there are so many functions and objects classes out there for examining an object. Dump DMP is a really simple one, which has its pros and cons. And then I use Matrius object to string with his message box. His message box function is amazing, and I just use it all the time. And then Brian asked about, I wasn't quite understanding what he said. He was wondering how to attach HK to OBS other than hotkey. Did you mean other than AutoHotkey, or did you mean other than using a hotkey? Like, I don't understand what the question is.
Now, to add on to what Joe was just saying while we try to clarify that, this of grabbing an object and converting it into a string, there's, as you mentioned, libraries for that. And Joe, we were recently discussing, I don't know if you have actually released the video yet, but we were talking to Chunji, right?
Oh,
about
yeah.
So he has some libraries that are exactly for that kind of thing, like trying to join objects into strings and doing those kind of things. But usually the way, if you want to do it yourself, if you have an object and you want to do it yourself, the idea, I'm just going to give the general idea, is looping through the object and on each key just appending it to a string. So it is depending on the type of object, okay? Because if it is an array, it's fairly simple. If it is just an object, you would have to loop through the properties, and there are ways of doing that. But in general, the main idea is just go through the object, loop through the object with a for loop or a normal loop, however you want to do it. And for each of the keys, you're just going to append them into a variable with whatever you want to do, commas, spaces, new lines, whatever you want.
Isaias, have you had any problems? Someone asked here, Gabriel asked, with using the reload command within VS Code? Like having it conflict or anything, I guess?
So in VS Code, you do have this issue that AutoHotkey version 1. No, so that has to do with the debugger that you're using. So there is a debugger that comes with the version 1 of AutoHotkey, like the Lexer for AutoHotkey version 1, which is kind of like the default debugger, which is great. But if you're using AutoHotkey version 2 Lexer and you try to reload the script, it's going to fail and tell you, hey, this script is not the same version and so on. What I did is that I switched to a different debugger that is out there that is more advanced and has more capabilities and fixes that exact same issue. I don't know if that's the issue that you're having, but I had this issue before reloading scripts. And what fixed it for me was changing to a different debugger, which I could show real quick name so that you have an idea of which one I'm referring to. Oh, hold on, give me just a minute.
Smith Boss, I didn't use AutoHotkey with... Actually, I did, but I just never got into using Tasker. So I don't know.
Right. So the debugger that I'm referring to is VS Code AutoHotkey debug by 0++. And he fixes a lot of the issues. So when you install AutoHotkey++, this thing comes with a default debugger, which is good, it's okay, but it's not, it has a few little things going on. Now, if you install the other one here, the VS Code AutoHotkey debug. This one fixes a lot of issues and has some advanced stuff like conditional breakpoints and stuff like that. But then you have to configure your other extensions to use that debugger instead of the original one. So that's something that I do. I think for version 2, you have an option that tells you, hey, use this other debugger instead of the other one. But for version 1, you cannot really change it from here. It automatically uses the one that you set it. So in general, I think that would fix your reloading issue.
And then Brian, I just still am not. I don't understand the goal. Like I said, I see you said you ran out of, you don't have enough keys or whatever, so you're running out of keyboard for doing stuff. But then you mentioned webhooks or WebSockets?
WebSockets.
Which that's what really to me threw me as a curveball. I don't know how that's related.
Let me see. With to Tasker. I am familiar with Tasker. I actually use it myself. Now you have a plugin to integrate them both. So I understand more or less what he's referring to. Now I think there's a little bit of a confusion here because Brian Beals, it says, I don't have enough keyboard buttons. And Smith Boss is the one that is talking about Tasker. So those are two different people talking about two different things.
Brian, I wasn't saying that. Brian, I believe, also said...
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. So Brian is the one that is talking about keyboard buttons and then also talking about sockets.
Yeah.
Now...
yeah. This is awesome, by the way. There's lots going on in the chat. It's just...
Yeah, that's good. It's just a little bit... Yeah. So here's the thing. When you say connecting to OBS, you mean like having hotkeys set up to trigger stuff in OBS, I would assume, right? The first thing that I do is that I think, hey, the keyboard has 101 keys, but as soon as you have modifier keys, that number triples.
Yeah, right.
So for example, Control A is one way, Shift A, Alt A, and the interesting thing about AutoHotkey is that you can distinguish between Alt A, the left Alt A, and the right Alt A. So you say that you're running out of hotkeys. I really doubt so. I really doubt it because you can say left Alt A does one thing and right Alt A does another thing. So the way how you do that in AutoHotkey, you have a way of using the carets or the greater than and less than.
You can throw in some other ones that aren't actually modifier keys, like the caps locks key, the apps key. I mean, there's other ones that you can use.
Context menus are my
similar.
favorite.
So yeah, like you said, you can have a crazy number of actual hotkeys.
Right.
And at that point, you start to kind of forget sometimes.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
So I just posted a video I did where I show you like too many hotkeys. Try context menus. Then you only have one single key, and you can perform all your actions, have them organized and everything. That's probably my favorite way to go because I always am forgetting. Like, okay, great. Now I have to open.
Yeah, that is the premise.
Check what it is.
That is exactly the premise of QAP, the quick access pop-up, which allows you to create a lot of commands and stuff in a menu, right? And you just touched on a very good point. You start forgetting your hotkeys. We do have a tool that does that. It is the hotkey string lookup. That it was because exactly that same reason. If you have too many hotkeys, we needed a way to filter them out, search by it, and we allowed you to, right next to your hotkey, you put a comment, and that shows up on the tool. And actually, you can use that comment to search your hotkey. So if you are looking for an action, say, I just want to close OBS, you put that comment right next to your hotkey, and the tool grabs that. When you open your tool, if you just want to perform an action, you don't remember the hotkey, you just type close OBS, and the hotkey will actually pop up in there and just remind you, oh, it's control whatever H.
So Mage just mentioned that OBS 28, which by the way, when you upgrade to like holy cow, drastic difference by the way. But it comes with WebSocket integrated. So Mage, do you know, what are you doing with the WebSocket? Like what? I'm trying to understand how people are using it.
That's a very interesting question, because WebSockets are mainly about sending requests, HTTP requests over the network to another listening device. Well, it doesn't have to be exactly HTTP request. It's just sending data over the internet. Now, if your script and OBS are running in the same computer, you don't need to send data over the internet. That's the reason why WebSockets kind of like threw Joe off, because we do not understand what the goal might be unless you're trying to access a remote computer.
But you know what, Isaias? Remember when we looked at Geek Dude's approach at using Elgato Stream Deck, right? He was mentioning WebSockets as well, and I'm like, okay, maybe they're doing something else with them that I'm just trying to understand.
Right. In general, guys, for I think Jesus is just saying that. Yeah, I have to switch between Spanish and Spanish. It is the Spanish one, yeah, that's for sure.
Right, Jesus, but it sounds funny to us when you say
Jesus. Yeah. So in general, and this is for everybody. If you really want to kind of like interact with us, just join the Zoom meeting. Is easier. We can unmute you and let you speak, or if you want to share your screen to explain your situation better, is great. So during in the live stream on YouTube, you can definitely just ask your questions, but then it would be a little bit easier to it would be a little bit more complex to give us context. So Jesus, you can go ahead and unmute. I don't know if Joe has to unmute you, or just unmute yourself and ask the question. Just go ahead and straight.
Yeah, we've had chats before. I know it's been a while, but
plus there's some cool features where we can highlight stuff, draw circles. Zay's does that a lot. I think we can even take control of your desktop if you allow us.
Yeah, and delete all your files. Yeah.
Yep. That was our plan from the beginning of this whole live.
Meanwhile, the chat seemed to slow down some. Did we get to everyone's question? Because it's quite possible we missed someone's.
No, I think they're actually active. They're still is still actually showing up in here what he's trying to say. I think YouTube is the one that has the delay. If you're in the Zoom meeting, you might be able to listen to it. Yeah, exactly. YouTube is a little bit delayed because it's being streamed. That's normal. But we do have some more questions coming in. So while they finish up their thoughts, you can go ahead, Jesus, and unmute yourself and tell us what you think.
Spot's comment on he's trying to take a webcam picture, so basically a file though, because he's not. I don't think he's trying to take it right from the webcam, right?
And send it to his Android device.
Right. Which I would be like, why don't you just put it under Dropbox and have your phone have Dropbox or whatever tool you want to use like that.
Right. Any syncing tool might be a better approach. Well, a simpler approach, because as soon as you start working with WebSockets, you're going to find out that that's not as simple as it looks. WebSockets is a very advanced topic. So if you're able to take the webcam picture with OBS, try to make it that it saves it in a location that is shared, like Dropbox, Google Drive, anything like that. And automatically on your Android, you can just open that folder and you will see the file. So that's kind of like the foolproof solution. It is not going to break that easily. And, but depending on the situation, it might be a little bit more complex. So
we had a couple more follow-ups on the stuff here.
Gabriel is asking something. He's asking if we had issues trying to capture F12 above function keys on the keyboard. Actually, not at all. We actually are using those keys in some of our scripts that need communication with other programs, and we don't want to use any of the keys that are present on a keyboard. So we are capturing and sending F13 and F14. The only thing is, let's say, for example, your USB key has to be configured to send F18 so we can capture it. So in AutoHotkey is straightforward. Let me share my screen real quick. It's just a matter of saying F18 message box true. Then the problem with that would be your keyboard doesn't have an F18, so you cannot press it from here. But your mouse button, when you click on a mouse button, is sending certain type of keys that might not be F18. So you would need probably the vendor software to configure your mouse to send the F18, so that AutoHotkey can capture it as a hotkey.
Well, you should be able to do that on all keyboards. I think it's Alt, and then you just
Alt. So at this point it would be Alt F. Oh, sorry. So let's go ahead and do F13, which is actually F1, right? So I do this Alt F1. It's not gonna throw the now Shift. Usually, other older programs translated
do it
Shift.
Alt F6.
Sorry, Alt
F6.
F6. Not really. The reason why I know is F1. So no, it's not that it's not Alt. It's that it needs to be translated. And other programs do the translation for you. Like for example, the command line CMD probably translates Shift F1 to F13. It translated for you, but the operating system is not doing that right now. So there is no way out of,
and it's Control, by the way.
I'm sorry, Control F1. So let me see. I have. Let me just
Control
run
F6
it again.
would be. Oh, you're doing 13 now,
Right? So 13 would be F1, right? So Control F1, and that's the thing. Control F1 would not work for me. So I know that the script is running, but it's not working. But again, it's because that is not translated in my keyboard. But the mouse can be configured to sending that key. I could even do this like this. So if I press Control F1, then go ahead and send F13. And now that would actually trigger, I hope so, that would just go ahead and trigger this, but it doesn't.
Well, if it was in a different script, it might. Right.
Oh, right. Yeah.
AutoHotkey watches out for crap like that and prevents it.
It prevents it from doing it. Right. But in general, I think there is a way of doing it. It's just I haven't messed with it that often. But what I do know is that we did have a script that was waiting for a hotkey like that, and the mouse, or well, it was a keyboard. We configured the keyboard using the software from the vendor to send that.
Yeah, like this. It's exactly. Not this, but this is what I got from Alibaba for $24 or something instead of what was it, $160 is the X24 one is. And we basically wanted to use that keyboard to send a key that no other software is using, and then have AutoHotkey watch for that key and then take an action. So this is why we've done this. Hold on, I need to go to the bathroom. Hold on, that's this button. Just let me.
I actually got this little device. I forget what it's actually called.
Right, I remember you talked.
Yeah.
Plug this into a keyboard, and it basically does everything automatically. And you just choose your hotkeys and what you want it to do. Kind of takes a lot of the coding out of it.
Did we get everyone's questions answered? I saw, and Tom, both you and Isaiah, do you guys have any comments on this? Of like he's trying to figure out how to do stuff and while his computer's locked, have his computer monitor for something. And I'm like, as far as I know, when your computer's locked, like you're using the Windows L, is what I assume he's meaning.
Right.
Like it's.
Well, it enters into an administrative state. So probably if you have an admin script running, you might be able to access certain things. But I really doubt it, because the locking of a PC is a very special state that Windows actually blocks almost anything that is not allowed to be in that state. So I would try running the script as an admin and see if that works, but I wouldn't guarantee it because locking a PC is a very special state. I see the constant mark just join. Hey.
So Mage.
Oh, right.
Real quick.
I'm sorry. Somebody asked about the drawing software, right?
Yeah. What was the software you were using?
So it is called Zoomit, right? It's called Zoomit. That is from sysinternals. So if you Google sysinternals suite, so let me share my screen. Sysinternals tools. Those are from Microsoft, and it is. Oh, hold on, let me see. Oh, tools. Oh, there it is. Suite. Oh, I just misspelled it. But this particular suite of tools is really good for many different things. They have a bundle that you can download them all, or you can go one by one and download the ones that you want. So Zoomit, the last one here, is the one that I use for that. It has a few simple hotkeys. I just changed them because I don't like them. But when you go to the options, you can either remove the hotkeys for live zoom and stuff. But the draw one, I have it as Alt-D, and you enter into a drawing state, and then you can change the colors of the pen, draw arrows or type in it and stuff like that, which is handy for most of the time. You just press Alt-D and start drawing. Now, you have to note that you're drawing on a screenshot. You're not drawing on the actual screen. So it takes a screenshot really quickly and you just go ahead and draw. And then if you press escape, just go out.
It's on your screen, right?
Right, of course.
If Isaias is doing something and I'm sharing my screen, he can't draw on my screen with it, right? That's what you're using the
Zoom. Now, yeah, the Zoom does allow you to annotate on screen that everybody else could see, even if it is Joe that is sharing his screen. But in general, this Zoomit tool is very, very useful in many situations.
And just to follow up, Mage. So yeah, that's awesome. You're getting a tablet for drawing. I almost bought something for doing it, and then I realized if I just have a tablet and I log into Zoom with it, I can use my finger and just draw it. I'm like, you know what? I just saved myself, because they weren't cheap, the things I was looking at. Now I saw Gabriel asked another question. I'm wondering if there's a way to identify which instance of an Edge browser has a specific tab that I'm looking for.
Ooh, yeah, I think that is really, it looks like a simple question, but it is not. And basically, my suggestion is go with using, for example, Rufadium to automate, and then with Rufadium, open the tabs that you want to automate, and that way you can control, okay, which tab I want to work on. But connecting to an existing browser, if it has many instances and many tabs, it might be really difficult to grab the one that you want. So it is not as easy as you might think.
The easiest way I found to do it is literally doing it how you would manually do it. I forget what the hotkey is in Internet Explorer, but it's like Control R or something, or Control T, and it cycles through your tabs, and then you just do you capture the window name and then say if name this, perform your actions. And I've gotten
that's one way of doing
pretty fast with a lot of tabs open, where I can push the hotkey, it cycles through all the tabs till it finds the one that I want. You gotta know the name. Hopefully it's not changing.
Yeah.
You can always use one set.
Now here's where it becomes a little bit annoying. Imagine that he has 3 Gmail tabs. How do you tell it open the second one? Because the method that you're describing will always get the first one, but how about you tell it the second one? Well, there might be other ways of doing it, but again, it gets complex very quickly because it is easy for us as humans to do that, but for a computer, you would have to understand how to get to that point as a human to translate it into how the computer might do it. So
I know people with 100 tabs that are open permanently.
Yeah, I don't know how people do that. I always have 1 or 2, and as soon as I have many, I just say, do I need them? Close. That's
I
it.
never go past 10. That's too much.
Yeah.
Well, or depending on what you're doing, just fire up a whole nother one, and then go to that page, and it's stupid, but you're like, all right, it works.
That was actually, I see in the chat Ray saying, hey, I got ransomware last week. Could AutoHotkey run in the background and tell me if a program is encrypting files? Wow, that's a very
It's interesting.
it's interesting, but I would say not as easily. I wouldn't say it's impossible because I could take a peek of what programs are running, right?
What you might do, just sorry for Zace, but I would say is because I
Yeah, go
understand
ahead.
where you're going with like complexity wise. What you could do though is just look for a lot of activity happening and just let you know when hey suddenly there's a lot of read and writes going on, like
You know what? That's where we were just discussing about sysinternal suite. There is one of the tools that they have that is it might be a good fit for that, which is the process monitor. So process monitor gives you a list of the processes that are running at the moment. And what happens is that after that, it actually tells you what that process is doing in your computer. So you might want to check on that. The only problem with that tool is it's a little bit advanced. And second of all, it gives you too much data. So you need to know how to filter the data. And that is not as straightforward as one might want.
we got 10 minutes left.
Last call.
I'm coming in a little bit late here, but I was listening on the video and I heard somebody asking something about OBS, but I'm not sure what they were trying to accomplish.
Right.
It's all right. Neither were we. No.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Because I'm going, why would you need? I mean, I just can't think of what you would need hotkeys in AutoHotkey for OBS because OBS has so many built-in hotkeys. You can do all kinds of stuff within it.
He's just trying to take it to the next level, and automate.
Very likely.
Yeah,
Very likely.
But to your point, Scotty, you can remap them in OBS as well, which a lot of programs don't allow you to do that, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you can change what it is, it's one of the big strengths I tell with AutoHotkey. Actually, I had this lady here over the last weekend, and I was showing her a little. She's not young and doesn't use a computer much, but she runs her business on it. And I was like showing her hot strings, and I said, she's like, well, I'm going to forget. I said, no, the beautiful part about AutoHotkey is you can tell me, what would you think? What would you think if it would be? And I can make it, that's the key combo, for you. And it changes, it's a game changer.
Kind of like that old joke, where should you store your keys? The first place you looked the last time you lost them.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I always tell people is like, where would you think they would be? That's where I would store them, right?
Yep,
like
exactly.
And that's where I put all my files and folders, and it's how I stay organized.
And I just wanted to let you know, Joe, that I do in fact hate you today. I am trying the whole sidebar, put my toolbar on the side, and everything's wrong today. But I'm sure
I'll tell you. And what's amazing is that it's the third day you won't even notice it.
So this is my home screen on my phone.
Wow.
So I like having stuff a push button away.
Yeah.
So that's I think I'll like it. I didn't realize you could get so much more in there.
Yeah,
so.
It's crazy. Yeah. He's talking about having your taskbar on the side instead of on the bottom, which you still can't do in Windows 11, which is why I'm not switching until that's the thing. Because once you get it on the side and you realize you can see so much more and have so many more shortcuts, either to folders or apps or whatever you want, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I see a couple more chats here. Does Rufadium use the Chromium API? No, it doesn't use the Chromium API. Well, I mean, it's connecting to Chromium-based tools. Which actually I misread it when I first read that. I thought you were asking if it uses the Selenium stuff, because that's a point of real confusion. When Selenium first came out, Selenium created drivers for you to use with the browsers, and then after some time, the browsers realized, hey, this is really something we should offer.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they started creating their own Selenium browser drivers.
Web drivers is what they're called. So now, but standardized. So Selenium came up with the basic concept, and then they say, hey, let's standardize this. All the browsers should have this. And Rufadium is actually going ahead and using those standard web drivers to do the stuff that,
And as for how it's different than Chrome, HK, or Edge, I don't know what Edge is, but if it's still relying on Geek Dude's Chrome HK, I'm going to say superior, not to knock what Geek Dude did, but we know from painfully experienced with Chrome HK how frequently it disconnects to it. And this, you circumvent all that. You do have to have where you download, it's an EXE or a DLL, Isaias? I don't remember.
So yeah, it is an exe. It downloads an exe. But in general, Edge is based on Chromium. So anything that you do with the Chromium API usually works in Edge. The only thing is that Edge is going in a different direction and adding certain features that Chrome does not have. Even though they're based on the same stuff, there are some differences. But
yay, open source.
The Chromium, yeah, exactly. The Chromium API, the standard one at least, would work for both mostly the same way.
And then there's I put in here auto control, which Tom is the one that told me about that. It's a extension for Chrome that you can use. And then there's the UIA automation approach also, which has its pros and cons. I wouldn't do it for advanced web scraping. However, what's really, really cool about it is you can use that UI automation approach on almost any program. So once you learn it, that could be your, hey, this is the way I automate all my programs or most of my programs, right? Which is really cool.
Yep.
And what if I have a program that I've tried to use that UI automation tool to get the information from, and it just gives me nothing? Bad programmer?
No, that is not a bad programmer. It's just that they did not have accessibility in mind. So programs right now, you know that there's a lot of blind people who use computers, deaf people.
I know what the libraries are for.
Right. But that's basically what happened. The programmer is not thinking about accessibility, and whatever they did is not including that. But that's the reason why.
Well, it makes total sense why that program doesn't have accessibility for blind people, because it's a 100% visual program on what it's doing.
yeah.
I couldn't imagine how a blind person would use it.
I would still try the ACC library because even though they're kissing cousins, well, the UI automation replaced it, because the other one's deprecated. Yeah.
Right.
But we've seen it where sometimes the ACC is still there and the UIA isn't, and vice versa. Yeah. So it's not a slam dunk.
It's a hit and miss. It's just like one more thing that you can try, but it's not something that it is like, yeah, that's going to work. So somebody was asking in the chat about that was on YouTube, about what the hero program is. And usually what happens is that we continue this session, we continue it. We do have a free session, right? But we continue it with other people who might have more special things that they don't want to be shared live on YouTube and stuff like that. And for that reason, we have additional calls. So this goes on for 2 more hours. So if you want to join, I sent the link on the chat if you want more information about what that is and why we have it. And basically, after this call, which is ending in a few minutes, we just keep going because we try to help as many people as possible. So if you want to join and if you want to have more information here, Joe, I think, has the link on the top of his webcam, and you can just join and we can keep helping you out, guys.
By the way, Connie asked in the Zoom chat if I got a multiple key mouse. Now, the one I have, which I think I can pull it up here, it has, I think, 5 buttons on it. I absolutely love this mouse, right? It's a stand-up, so your position is like this instead of sideways. But I did get this mouse, which has a crazy number, I think 20 buttons. And someone, I asked in the newsletter, a couple of people wrote me and said, yeah, I have one, I love it. I can't distinguish the buttons on the side. Like, I can feel a couple of them reliably, and maybe over time, if I used it enough, I would get used to it and be able to tell I'm on number 4 versus number 3. But it was. I don't know if I'm just too fat fingered or what. But yeah, I said nope, not for me.
That's the same mouse I have.
Oh yeah.
Well, if you need an address to send that to, I think I can handle it.
I've done with that. I'll do an entire row as the same hotkey, and instead of because it's hard to distinguish, like,
okay,
on that.
Yeah.
I'll do like 1 through 3 all perform the same action, and that way I just can pick one of the 4 rows, and
Right.
it limits me a little bit more, but I don't really need what is it
That
12
many
on there.
buttons.
Well, there's a
Yeah,
13.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good to hear. I haven't
not the only
entirely
one.
given up on it, but I'm like, yeah, I just couldn't feel the distinct buttons, and I'm like, when I'm doing something, I'm in a hurry and I want to hit. That's why I have a hotkey, and I don't want to be thinking, well, which one am I on?
Right. Oh,
Oh, we're at our time. So sorry.
before you go, let me take 1 minute, because we talked about that we were going to say about the suspend, and I think it is a very simple thing, guys. The suspend has there is a
Why don't we just do that in? Sorry, Isaias, but we're the other people are paying customers. I don't want to use up their time, so
no worries.
they're not here all
go ahead
here. So yeah, but
Let's
thanks
go
for
ahead and
going.
do that. Bye.
Great day. Great day.
See you, Tom.
ya.